Welcome to Dry Creek, Nebraska. In the late winter of 1894, where a man discovered his face on a wanted poster for crimes he never committed, and the clock started ticking on 7 days to live. Ben Sullivan stood frozen in the cold wind outside Harper's General Store, staring at the poster in his trembling hands. The face was his, every line and shadow, but the name read Jacob Reeves, wanted for bank robbery and murder in Colorado Territory. $5,000 reward, dead or alive. His 8-year-old daughter Sarah tugged his coat sleeve, while his 6-year-old son Thomas pressed close to his leg.
We need to go home. Right now.
Ben folded the poster quickly and stuffed it inside his coat, scanning the empty street of the tiny settlement. 2 other families lived within 10 miles of his homestead, and the new mining camp 3 miles west had exploded with 200 desperate souls in the past month. Most of them hard men chasing rumors of silver. Any one of them would kill him for $5,000 without asking questions. He lifted Thomas onto his hip and took Sarah's hand, walking fast toward the wagon. The 5-mile ride home felt like 50. Ben pushed the horses harder than he should have, watching the horizon for riders. His wife Margaret had died 2 years ago from fever, leaving him alone with 2 kids and a 160-acre claim that barely produced enough to keep them fed. He had come to Nebraska to escape his past, to bury the name he was born with and the reputation that came with it. Now someone had put his face on a poster with a stranger's crimes attached, and in 7 days every bounty hunter within 200 miles would know exactly where to find him. The ranch house appeared over the rise, a small wooden structure with a barn and corral. Ben pulled the wagon close to the door and carried Thomas inside, while Sarah ran ahead.
Sarah, bar the door behind us. Thomas, go to your room.
He waited until both children were out of sight, then spread the poster on the kitchen table. The resemblance was perfect. But Ben Sullivan had never been to Colorado, had never robbed a bank, had never killed anyone. Someone had used his face deliberately, and that meant someone knew who he really was and where to find him. A knock on the door made him jump. He grabbed the rifle from above the fireplace and moved to the window. A woman stood on his porch, alone. No horse visible. She wore a long dark coat, and her black hair hung in a thick braid over one shoulder. Native features, but dressed like a settler. She knocked again.
Mr. Sullivan, I need to talk to you about that poster.
Ben's finger tightened on the trigger.
Who are you?
My name is Ella Sullivan. I am looking for the man who destroyed my father's trading business, and I think you might be him. Or you might know where he is.
Sullivan is a common name.
The face on that poster belongs to Jacob Reeves. Jacob Reeves worked for my father 15 years ago in Indian Territory. He stole $20,000 worth of goods and blamed my father for the loss. My father died in debt prison 3 years later. I have been tracking Reeves ever since.
Ben lowered the rifle slightly, but did not open the door.
That poster is not me.
I know. I have seen Jacob Reeves in person. You are not him. But someone wants people to think you are, and I need to know why.
Ben looked back at the hallway where his children were hiding, then at the woman on his porch. She had traveled alone across dangerous country to find the man who destroyed her family. That took either courage or madness. Possibly both. He opened the door. Ella stepped inside and removed her coat. She was lean and strong, probably in her early 30s, with dark eyes that missed nothing. She looked at the poster on the table, then at Ben.
You look exactly like him. Same height, same build, same hair color. But your eyes are different, and you move differently. Reeves was left-handed. You are right-handed.
How do you know so much about him?
I have been hunting him for 3 years. I know everything about him except where he is right now. Someone printed that poster to flush him out, or to get rid of you. Which one are you?
I am nobody. I am a homesteader, with 2 kids trying to survive.
Then why does your face match a wanted murderer?
Ben sat down heavily at the table. The truth was complicated and dangerous, but this woman had information he needed.
My real name is not Sullivan. I changed it when I came to Nebraska. I was running from a reputation I did not want. I was a lawman in Wyoming territory, and I made enemies. When my wife got sick, I walked away from everything to give my kids a clean start.
What was your name before?
That does not matter now. What matters is, someone found me, and they are using Reeves to do it. If bounty hunters come here, my children will be in danger.
Then we find Reeves before the bounty hunters find you.
We? She didn't warn or fled her. One offer said, they were plessed down. And they warned the one stas but the Peter and the trams. They were the nuft when the lost lot spoke. But stress. I just bowing frest in the teaching dynatize. Our fire. I called it tire, but my finally was pay for a Christ it's walking. By Cyverlios.
You have 7 days. I have 3 years invested in finding this man. We help each other, or we both lose.
Ben studied her face. Independence and determination radiated from every line of her posture. She would go after Reeves, with or without his help, and she would probably get herself killed in the process.
The mining camp. If Reeves is in this area, that is where he would be. 200 desperate people, and no law.
Then we go tonight.
I have children.
Bring them to my camp. I have a secure location 2 miles west. They will be safer there than here if bounty hunters come looking.
Ben looked toward the hallway again. Sarah and Thomas had already lost their mother. He would not let them lose him too.
Give me an hour to pack.
Ella nodded and walked outside to retrieve her horse from where she had left it hidden in the trees. Ben went to his children's room and found them sitting together on Thomas's bed. Sarah's arm was around her little brother.
We have to leave the house for a few days. Pack your warmest clothes and anything you cannot leave behind.
Why, Papa?
Sarah's voice was small and frightened. Ben knelt in front of them.
Because bad men might come looking for someone who is not me, and I need to keep you safe until I can prove they have the wrong person.
Is that lady going to help us?
Yes. Her name is Miss Ella, and she is very smart and very brave. You are going to stay at her camp while I take care of this problem.
I want to stay with you.
I know, sweetheart, but this is the safest way. I promise I will come back for you.
He helped them pack small bags, then loaded supplies and blankets into the wagon. Ella returned leading a paint mare and tied it to the back of the wagon. They drove west as the sun dropped toward the horizon, turning the prairie grass silver in the fading light. Ella's camp was hidden in a shallow depression, surrounded by tall grass and scrub brush. She had a small tent, a fire ring, and enough supplies for a week. Ben helped his children settle inside the tent, while Ella started a fire.
There is dried meat and hardtack in the supply box. The water barrel is full. Do not leave the camp for any reason. If anyone comes except your father or me, hide in the grass and do not make a sound.
Sarah nodded solemnly. Thomas clung to Ben's hand.
I will be back by morning.
He kissed both children and walked back to the wagon with Ella. They rode toward the mining camp as darkness fell, following the rutted road that led through the settlement and over the bridge, where Garrick Caldwell collected his toll. The bridge was the only crossing over Dry Creek for 20 miles in either direction, and Caldwell had claimed it 2 months ago, demanding payment from anyone who passed. The man was a bully and a thief, but he had 3 armed men working for him, and no one had challenged his authority yet. Caldwell himself stood in the center of the bridge holding a lantern when Ben and Ella arrived. He was a big man with a scarred face and mean eyes. 2 of his guards flanked him with rifles. Caldwell smiled without warmth. The tollkeeper stepped forward, his boots heavy on the wooden planks.
We are crossing.
The first guard raised his rifle slightly.
How much?
Caldwell's smile widened. He had been collecting tolls for weeks, but tonight something was different. The way he looked at Ben suggested he knew about the poster.
For you, Mr. Sullivan, the toll is information. I am looking for a man named Jacob Reeves. $5,000 reward. You seen him?
We are looking for the same man.
Caldwell's attention shifted to Ella. He looked her up and down with obvious contempt.
Half-breed squaw hunter. I heard about you. You have been asking questions in the camp. People do not like questions.
People do not like toll keepers who steal their money either, but here we are.
One of the guards laughed. Caldwell's face darkened.
You got a smart mouth. Maybe I should teach you some manners. You should let us pass.
Ben's voice was quiet, but hard. Caldwell looked back at him.
Or what? You going to shoot me? Then my boys shoot you. And the woman. And I still get the $5,000 when I turn in your body.
That poster is wrong. He is not Reeves.
Poster says dead or alive. Nobody is going to check too careful with that kind of money on the line.
Caldwell stepped closer to Ben.
I am thinking, maybe I collect that reward myself. Save the bounty hunters a trip.
Ella's hand moved to the knife at her belt.
Try it.
Hold on.
Ben kept his voice calm.
You want Reeves? We are hunting him tonight. You let us pass. We bring him back. You collect the reward. Why would I trust you? Because if you kill me now, you get $5,000. If we bring you Reeves, you get $10,000. He has a separate price on his head in Colorado. Do the math.
Caldwell considered this. Greed fought with suspicion in his expression.
You find him tonight. You bring him here by dawn. If you do not show, I come looking for you, and I collect whatever reward I can get. Deal? Deal.
Caldwell stepped aside and gestured for his guards to lower their rifles. Ben and Ella crossed the bridge without looking back. When they were out of earshot, Ella spoke quietly.
He will kill you anyway. He wants the money, and he does not care about the truth.
I know. But now we have. Until dawn. The mining camp was a chaotic collection of tents, lean-tos, and rough wooden structures thrown together without planning or order. Men moved through the darkness, some drunk, some looking for trouble. Saloon music drifted from a large tent at the center of the camp. Ben and Ella tied their horses at the edge of the settlement and walked into the noise and light. The saloon tent was packed with miners, gamblers, and drifters. A makeshift bar ran along one side, and card tables filled the rest of the space. Ben scanned faces while Ella worked her way through the crowd.
The bartender. He sees everyone who comes through.
They approached the bar together. The bartender was a thin man with nervous eyes.
We are looking for Jacob Reeves.
The bartender's face went blank.
Never heard of him.
He is wanted for murder and bank robbery. $5,000 reward. If you help us find him, we split the money.
Greed flickered in the bartender's expression.
There is a man staying in the back tent. Calls himself Jackson. Paid in gold coins last week. Did not look like a miner.
Where is the tent?
Behind the north side. Red canvas. He has been in there all day.
Ben and Ella left the saloon and circled around to the north side of the camp. The red tent stood apart from the others, isolated and dark. No light showed from inside. Ben drew his pistol and moved to the entrance, while Ella covered him from the side. He pulled back the flap. The tent was empty except for a bedroll and a small trunk. Ben holstered his weapon and opened the trunk. Inside were 2 changes of clothes, a shaving kit, and a leather folder. He opened the folder and found a stack of papers. Bills of sale, shipping manifests, letters of credit, all made out to Jacob Reeves. All dated within the past 3 months.
He was here.
Where is he now?
A voice spoke from the darkness outside.
He left 2 hours ago. Headed for the bridge.
Ben and Ella spun around. A man stepped into view, older, weathered, with the look of a professional tracker.
You are the ones hunting Reeves. I am hunting him too, but for different reasons. Name is Carter. I used to ride with him.
Where is he going?
He is not going anywhere. He is waiting at the bridge. He made a deal with Caldwell. Caldwell gets rid of you. Reeves pays him half the reward money, and Reeves disappears while everyone thinks you are dead. Why tell us this? Because Reeves killed my brother 5 years ago, and I want him dead more than I want the money. You two look like you can handle yourselves. I will help you take him down.
Ben looked at Ella. She nodded once.
We go now. Fast and quiet. They rode back toward the bridge at a gallop, pushing the horses hard through the darkness. The moon was rising, casting silver light across the prairie. As they approached the bridge, Ben saw figures moving near the toll-keeper's shack. Too many figures. Caldwell had doubled his guards. They are expecting us.
Then we do not go to them. We go around.
Carter pointed east.
The creek is shallow, half a mile down. We can cross there and come up behind them.
They turned off the road and followed the creek bank until they found the crossing. The water was ice cold and only knee-deep on the horses. They climbed the far bank and moved through the darkness toward the bridge. Ben could see Caldwell and 4 guards standing near the bridge entrance, all armed, all watching the road from the camp. A 5th man stood apart from the others, partially hidden in shadow. Even from a distance, Ben recognized the posture and build. Jacob Reeves. The man looked exactly like him. Same height, same coloring, same features. It was like looking at a mirror image.
That is him.
How do we do this? Caldwell will kill all of us if we just walk up there. We need to separate Reeves from the group.
Carter pulled a rifle from his saddle.
I will create a distraction. You two take Reeves.
Before Ben could argue, Carter fired a shot into the air and shouted,
"Bounty hunters coming from the east!"
The guards spun around, confused. Caldwell started yelling orders, In the chaos, Reeves turned and ran toward the creek. Ben and Ella broke from cover and sprinted after him. Reeves was fast, but Ella was faster. She caught up to him at the creek's edge and tackled him into the shallow water. They went down in a tangle of limbs and splashing. Ben reached them a moment later and hauled Reeves up by his collar. The man's face was identical to Ben's, but the eyes were different, cold and calculating where Ben's were warm. Reeves spit water and glared at them.
Jacob Reeves, you are under arrest for theft, fraud, and murder.
Reeves laughed.
You are not law. You are nobody. She does not need to be law. She just needs to bring you in.
Gunfire erupted from the direction of the bridge. Carter's distraction had turned into a full fight. Ben grabbed Reeves and shoved him toward the horses.
We move now.
They dragged Reeves back to where they had left the horses and tied his hands. Carter appeared out of the darkness, bleeding from his shoulder, but still moving.
Caldwell is dead. One of his own men shot him when the fighting started. The others scattered.
What about the bridge?
It is open. No more toll keeper.
They rode back toward Ella's camp, with Reeves tied to Carter's horse. The sky was starting to lighten in the east when they arrived. Ben's children ran out of the tent when they heard the horses.
Papa!
Sarah threw herself into Ben's arms. Thomas was right behind her.
I told you I would come back.
He held them both while Ella secured Reeves to a tree. Carter sat down heavily and pressed a hand to his wounded shoulder.
You need that looked at.
I will live. What matters is, we got him.
We take him to the nearest marshal in the morning. There is a circuit judge in North Platte. 3 days' ride.
I will go with you. I want to see this through.
Ben looked at his children, then at Ella.
I need to take my kids home first. Make sure the ranch is secure.
I will wait.
Something passed between them in that moment, an understanding that went beyond words. They had fought together, survived together, and now they stood on the edge of something new and uncertain. They spent the day resting and tending to Carter's wound. Ella cleaned and bandaged his shoulder while Ben kept watch over Reeves. The wanted man sat silent and sullen, knowing his fate was sealed. As evening approached, Ben took Ella aside.
Why did you really come here? You could have tracked Reeves anywhere. Why did you follow him to my doorstep?
Because when I saw that poster, I knew it was wrong. I have been hunting Reeves for 3 years. I know his face better than my own. When I saw your name attached to his crimes, I knew someone was using you to draw him out. I came to warn you.
You could have been killed.
I have been risking my life for 3 years. One more day did not matter.
It matters to me.
The words hung in the air between them. Ella looked away, but not before Ben saw something vulnerable flash across her face.
I am not used to people caring whether I live or die.
Get used to it.
She met his eyes.
What happens after we deliver Reeves to the marshal?
I go back to my ranch and my children. I try to build the life I came here for.
Alone?
That depends.
On what?
On whether you have any reason to stay in Nebraska.
Ella was quiet for a long moment.
I have spent 3 years with one purpose. Revenge. Justice. Call it what you want. I have not thought about what comes after.
Maybe it is time to start thinking about it.
Sarah and Thomas came running over, interrupting the moment.
Miss Ella, Can you teach me how to track like you do?
Ella smiled, and it transformed her face.
I can teach you many things, if you want to learn. Can you stay with us?
The question was innocent and direct, the way only children can be. Ella looked at Ben.
I do not know.
Stay.
Ben's voice was quiet, but certain.
At least until we get Reeves to the marshal. After that, if you want to move on, I understand. But if you want to stay, there is room at the ranch. My children need someone who can teach them to be strong and smart. I need someone who understands what it means to start over.
You do not know me.
I know you risked your life to warn a stranger. I know you are brave and smart, and you do not quit. I know my children trust you, and I trust my children's judgment. The rest we can figure out as we go.
Ella looked down at Sarah, who was watching her with hopeful eyes.
I have never stayed in one place for more than a few weeks.
Then maybe it is time to try something different. They left for North Platte the next morning, Ben and Ella riding together with Carter and Reeves, while Sarah and Thomas stayed safe at the ranch with a neighbor family who had heard about the trouble and offered to help. The 3-day journey was uneventful. They delivered Reeves to the marshal, who confirmed the wanted poster and promised the reward money would be sent to Carter and Ella within a month. The judge cleared Ben's name officially, and they rode back to Dry Creek with the paperwork proving his innocence. When they returned to the ranch, the neighbor family had cleaned the house and stocked the pantry. Sarah and Thomas ran out to meet them, and this time Ella dismounted and hugged them both without hesitation. That night, after the children were asleep, Ben and Ella stood outside under the stars. The prairie stretched endless in every direction, dark and vast and full of possibility. I need to ask you something, and I need an honest answer.
Go ahead.
Do you want to stay because you have nowhere else to go? Or do you want to stay because you want to be here?
Ella turned to face him.
I want to stay because for the first time in 3 years I feel like I am home. Not the place. The people. You and your children. I did not know I was looking for that until I found it.
I have been alone for 2 years. I told myself it was better that way, safer for my kids if I did not get attached to anyone. But you changed that. You walked into danger to help us. You fought beside me. You made my children smile again. I am not good with words, but I know what I feel.
What do you feel?
I feel like I have been waiting for you without knowing it. Like everything that happened, all the bad and the hard and the dangerous, led to you standing here, right now.
Ella's eyes were bright in the starlight.
I spent 3 years hunting the man who destroyed my family. I thought revenge would fix everything, but it did not. What fixed it was finding a new family. You and Sarah and Thomas. That is what I want, if you will have me.
I will have you. For as long as you will stay.
He reached for her hand, and she took it. They stood there for a long time, hands joined, looking out at the land that had tested them and brought them together. Inside the house, Sarah and Thomas slept peacefully, safe and warm. The wanted poster was gone, burned in the stove. The threat was over. Caldwell was dead. Reeves was in custody. And the reward money would arrive in a few weeks, enough to see them through the next year and improve the ranch. But none of that mattered as much as the quiet understanding between two people who had found each other in the middle of nowhere and decided to build something real. The next morning, Ella moved her things into the small room off the kitchen. Sarah helped her unpack, while Thomas showed her his collection of interesting rocks. Ben watched from the doorway, marveling at how quickly his children had accepted her as part of their family.
Papa, can Miss Ella teach me to ride better?
If Miss Ella has time.
I have time.
She looked at Ben over Sarah's head and smiled.
I have all the time in the world.
The weeks turned into months. Ella taught Sarah and Thomas to track, to read the weather, to move quietly through tall grass. She helped Ben repair the barn roof and plant a larger garden. She learned to cook the meals Margaret used to make, and she told the children stories about her father's trading routes and the places she had traveled. At night, after the children were asleep, Ben and Ella would sit on the porch and talk about their plans for the ranch, for the future, for the life they were building together. One evening in late spring, as the sun set over the prairie, Ben took Ella's hand.
I need to tell you something I should have said months ago.
What is it?
I love you. I love you for your strength and your courage, and the way you make my children laugh. I love you for staying when you could have left. I love you for choosing this life with me.
Ella felt her throat tighten with emotion.
I love you too. I loved you from the moment you stood between me and danger, without knowing if I was worth saving. I loved you when you let me stay, even though it complicated everything. I love the father you are, and the man you've become.
Ben pulled her close and kissed her, gentle at first, then deeper, as months of restraint and longing poured into that single moment. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathless.
Marry me. Not because it's practical or convenient, but because I can't imagine my life without you in it.
Yes.
They were married in Dry Creek 2 weeks later in a simple ceremony at the church. Sarah wore wildflowers in her hair, and Thomas carried the rings in his pocket. The whole town turned out, curious about the woman who had brought down Garrick Caldwell and won the heart of Ben Sullivan. Ella wore a simple blue dress she had made herself, and Ben wore his best shirt and clean trousers. When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, Sarah and Thomas cheered louder than anyone. The celebration afterward was modest but joyful. The ranch hands from neighboring spreads came by with food and well wishes. The shopkeeper brought a bottle of good whiskey. Even the new sheriff stopped by to congratulate them and report that the last of Caldwell's associates had been cleared out of the territory. As the sun began to set and the guests departed, Ben and Ella stood together on their porch, watching their children play in the yard.
I never thought I'd have this again. A family. A home. Someone to share it with.
Neither did I. I spent so long chasing the past that I almost missed the future.
What made you stay that first night? You could have ridden on.
I saw something in your eyes when you looked at your children, a kind of fierce love that reminded me of my father. And I thought, if a man can love like that, maybe he's worth knowing.
And now?
Now I know I was right.
Summer came and brought good rains. The garden flourished, and the cattle fattened on rich grass. Ella proved to be as skilled at ranch work as she was at tracking, and together, she and Ben expanded their operation. They hired 2 ranch hands and bought more cattle with the reward money. Sarah learned to handle horses with confidence, and Thomas grew taller and stronger, following Ben around and absorbing every lesson his father taught. One afternoon in late July, Ella was helping Sarah practice her shooting when Ben rode up with news.
Marshall from Lincoln just stopped by. He said the circuit judge officially cleared my name and sealed the old records. As far as the law is concerned, Ben Sullivan is exactly who he says he is.
Ella lowered her rifle and walked over to him.
And who is that?
A rancher. A father. A husband. A man who got a second chance and plans to make the most of it.
That sounds like a good man to me.
That evening, after the children were in bed, Ben and Ella sat together on the porch as they did most nights. The prairie stretched out before them, endless and beautiful in the fading light. Somewhere out there were the places they had come from, the mistakes they had made, the pain they had carried. But all of that was behind them now.
Do you ever miss the traveling? The freedom of the road?
Sometimes. But this is better. This is real.
No regrets?
Only one. I wish I had found you sooner.
Ben smiled and pulled her close.
We found each other when we were supposed to. Not a moment before, not a moment after.
The stars began to appear overhead, bright and clear in the vast Nebraska sky. Inside the house, Sarah and Thomas slept soundly, safe and loved. The ranch was quiet, except for the distant sound of cattle settling for the night and the soft rustle of prairie grass in the wind. Ella rested her head on Ben's shoulder and felt a peace she had never known before. She had spent years searching for justice, for answers, for some way to make sense of her father's death and her own exile from her people. She had tracked criminals across 3 territories and learned to survive on her own terms. But here, on this remote ranch with this quiet man and his children, she had found something better than justice or answers. She had found home.
What are you thinking about?
How strange life is. A year ago, I was alone, angry, convinced I'd never trust anyone again. Now, I have a family, a purpose, a future.
A year ago, I was hiding, afraid to use my real name, convinced my past would catch up with me and destroy what little I had left. Now, I'm free.
We saved each other.
Yes, we did.
They sat in comfortable silence as the night deepened around them. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new work, new responsibilities. But tonight was perfect. The seasons turned, and the ranch prospered. Ella's reputation as a tracker brought occasional work from the law, and she took jobs when they interested her, always returning home to Ben and the children. Ben expanded the herd and built a new barn, and together they made the ranch into something more than just a place to survive. It became a haven, a home, a legacy they would pass to their children. Sarah grew into a confident young woman who could outride most of the ranch hands and shoot as straight as her stepmother. Thomas became a skilled cattleman who shared his father's quiet strength and steady judgment. And through it all, Ben and Ella stood together, partners in every sense of the word, bound by love and respect and the shared knowledge that they had fought for their happiness and won. Years later, when people asked Ella how she ended up on a remote Nebraska ranch, she would smile and say it was the last place she expected to find herself, and the only place she ever wanted to be. And when they asked Ben how he built such a successful ranch, he would nod toward his wife and say he had help from the best tracker, the smartest partner, and the strongest woman he'd ever known. But on that first night after their wedding, none of that was visible yet. There was only the present moment, the two of them together on the porch, the children safe inside, and the wide prairie stretching away into darkness. Ella lifted her head from Ben's shoulder and looked at him.
Promise me something.
Anything.
Promise, we'll always be honest with each other. No more running. No more hiding. No more secrets.
I promise. No more running. No more hiding. Just us. Building this life together.
Just us.
He kissed her again, tender and sure, and she kissed him back with all the passion and hope and fierce love she had been holding back for months. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling.
Ready to go inside?
In a minute. I want to remember this. This moment. This feeling. I want to hold on to it.
We have a lifetime of moments ahead of us.
I know. But this one is special. This is where it all begins.
They stayed there a little longer, wrapped in each other's arms, watching the stars wheel slowly overhead. The prairie wind sang its eternal song, and the ranch settled into nighttime quiet. Inside, the children dreamed peaceful dreams. The wanted poster was ash. The threat was gone. The past was buried, and the future stretched out before them, bright and wide and full of promise. When they finally went inside, hand in hand, the house welcomed them with warmth and light. This was home now, for both of them. This was where they belonged. To get the morning after their wedding, Ella woke to find Ben already up, making breakfast in the kitchen. Sarah and Thomas sat at the table, whispering excitedly. When Ella appeared in the doorway, Sarah jumped up.
Papa said, "You're staying forever now." That's right. Forever.
Thomas looked up from his plate.
Does that mean you're our mama now?
Ella glanced at Ben, unsure how to answer. He nodded, giving her permission to speak her heart.
I would be honored to be your mama, if that's what you want.
Sarah ran to her and hugged her waist. Thomas followed more slowly, but his hug was just as tight. Ben watched from the stove, his eyes bright with emotion. After breakfast, they rode out to check the herd. Ben had spent the reward money wisely, buying 10 more head of cattle and enough supplies to last through the next winter. The ranch was growing, slowly but surely. As they rode, Ella pointed out tracks in the dirt.
Coyote passed through here last night. And there. See those marks? Deer, heading toward the creek.
You see things I never notice.
My father taught me to read the land like a book. Every mark tells a story.
Teach the children. They should know these things.
I will. I'll teach them everything I know.
They worked together throughout the morning, checking fences and moving cattle to fresh grazing. The work was hard but satisfying, made easier by the partnership they had built. By midday, they stopped to rest under a lone cottonwood tree. Ben pulled bread and cheese from his saddlebag, and they ate in comfortable silence, watching the cattle graze.
I never thought I'd have this again.
Have what?
Peace. A partner. Someone who understands the work and doesn't complain about the hardship.
I grew up on the trail. Hardship is all I've ever known. But this feels different. This feels like building something that lasts.
It will last. We'll make sure of it.
That afternoon, a rider appeared on the horizon. Ben tensed, his hand moving instinctively toward his rifle. But Ella recognized the horse and rider before he did.
It's Marshal Reeves.
The marshal rode up slowly, his hands visible and empty. He dismounted and nodded to both of them. The marshal explained that Caldwell's operation had been larger than they realized. 4 more men had been arrested in towns across Nebraska, all part of the extortion network. The territorial governor had sent a letter of commendation to Ben and Ella for their role in bringing down the organization. He handed Ben an envelope. Inside was a bank draft for an additional $500, a bounty paid by the territory for Caldwell's capture.
We didn't do it for money.
The marshal nodded. The marshal said he understood, but the territory wanted to recognize their courage. He also brought news that the bridge into Dry Creek was being rebuilt, this time under territorial control, with no tolls. Trade would flow freely again, and the town would prosper. Before he left, the marshal shook both their hands. The marshal said they had done a good thing, not just for themselves, but for everyone who traveled those roads. After he rode away, Ben and Ella looked at each other.
$500.
We can build a proper barn. Maybe hire some help for spring planting.
Or we can save it. Put it aside for the children's future.
You're already thinking like a mother.
I am a mother now. Those children are mine, just as much as they're yours.
He pulled her close and kissed her forehead.
I know. And they're lucky to have you.
That evening, they told Sarah and Thomas about the money and let them help decide how to spend it. Sarah wanted new dresses and books. Thomas wanted a pony of his own. Ben promised they would have those things, but first they needed to make the ranch stronger. The children understood, or at least they pretended to, and went to bed excited about the future. After they were asleep, Ben and Ella sat on the porch again, a habit that was already becoming tradition.
Do you ever think about your father?
Every day. I wonder if he would approve of the life I've chosen.
I think he would be proud. You found the truth behind the betrayal, and you found a home.
I found more than a home. I found a family.
She leaned against him, watching the stars. The night was clear and cold, but she felt warm beside him.
Tell me about Margaret.
Why now?
Because she was part of your life, and I want to understand all of you.
Ben was quiet for a long moment.
She was kind, patient. She loved the children more than anything. When she got sick, she made me promise I would keep the ranch going, keep the family together.
You kept that promise.
With your help. I couldn't have done it alone.
You're not alone anymore. You'll never be alone again.
He turned to face her, his hand cupping her cheek.
I love you, Ella Sullivan.
I love you, Ben Sullivan.
They kissed under the stars, and the prairie wind carried their happiness across the empty land. The weeks turned into months, and the months into a year. The ranch prospered. Ben hired 2 hands to help with the cattle, and Ella trained them in tracking and range management. Sarah learned to read faster than anyone expected, devouring every book they could get from town. Thomas got his pony and learned to ride like his new mother, quiet and sure. One evening in late autumn, as the first snow began to fall, Ella stood on the porch watching the flakes drift down. Ben came out and wrapped a blanket around her shoulders.
Come inside. It's cold.
In a minute. I want to see the first snow.
You've seen plenty of snow.
Not like this. Not from home.
He smiled at the word. Home. It was home now, for both of them.
Next year will be better. The herd is strong, the children are healthy, and we have money saved.
Next year will be perfect.
She turned to face him, and he saw tears in her eyes.
What's wrong?
Nothing's wrong. Everything is right. I'm just happy. and I'm not used to being happy.
Get used to it. This is our life now.
She laughed and kissed him, tasting snowflakes on his lips.
Our life. I like the sound of that.
They went inside together, closing the door against the cold. The fire crackled in the hearth, and the children were already asleep in their beds. Ella and Ben sat by the fire, holding hands, planning the spring planting and the expansion of the herd. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering the prairie in white. The land that had tested them so harshly now offered peace and plenty. And in the small ranch house, two people who had been running from their pasts finally stopped running and built a future together, rooted in love and hard work and the unshakable belief that they could face anything as long as they faced it together. The spring brought new challenges and new joys. Ella discovered she was pregnant in April, and Ben's face when she told him was something she would remember for the rest of her life. Pure wonder and fierce protectiveness all at once.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
When?
Late autumn. Probably November.
He pulled her into his arms and held her so tight she could barely breathe.
A baby. Our baby.
Our baby.
Sarah and Thomas were thrilled at the news. Sarah immediately began planning what they would teach the new baby, and Thomas announced he would share his room. The ranch hands congratulated them with shy smiles and worked even harder to make sure Ella didn't lift anything heavy. The summer was hot and dry, but the cattle stayed healthy and the garden flourished. Ella worked alongside Ben until her belly grew too large, and even then she refused to stop completely. She tracked strays, managed the books, and taught Sarah advanced reading while Thomas learned arithmetic. In August, a stranger rode up to the ranch. Ben stepped out with his rifle, but the man raised both hands. The stranger explained he was a lawyer from Omaha, and he had been searching for Ella Sullivan for months. Her father's estate had been settled, and she was the sole heir. There was money, more than she expected, and a warehouse full of trading goods in Kansas City.
I don't want it. Sell everything and donate the money to the Choctaw families who lost land.
The lawyer blinked in surprise. That's a substantial sum, ma'am.
I know exactly what it is. My father would have wanted it to help his people. Make sure it does.
After the lawyer left, Ben looked at his wife with newfound respect.
That was a fortune.
I have everything I need right here.
You're remarkable.
I'm practical. Money can't buy what we have.
September brought cooler weather and the first hints of autumn color. Ella grew larger and moved more slowly, but she remained fiercely independent. She insisted on helping with the harvest and canning, and Ben learned not to argue with her. One afternoon, as they worked side by side preserving vegetables, he reached over and placed his hand on her belly. The baby kicked, strong and sure.
Active little one.
Takes after you. Stubborn.
Takes after you. Strong.
She laughed and kissed him, her hands covered in tomato juice.
Strong and stubborn. This child doesn't stand a chance.
In October, the first real cold snap arrived. Ben finished winterizing the barn and reinforcing the fences. Ella prepared the house for the new arrival, washing tiny clothes and setting up a cradle Ben had built himself. Sarah helped fold blankets while Thomas carried wood for the stove. The family worked together with quiet efficiency, each person knowing their role. One evening, as Ella sat by the fire knitting a small hat, Ben sat beside her and took her hand.
I've been thinking.
About what?
about names. If it's a boy, I'd like to name him after your father.
Ella's eyes filled with tears.
You would do that?
He gave me the greatest gift when he raised you. It seems right.
And if it's a girl?
Whatever you want.
Margaret. If you're comfortable with that,
Ben's voice was thick when he answered.
I would be honored. She would have loved you.
I wish I could have known her.
In some ways, you do. Every time Sarah laughs, or Thomas shows kindness, that's Margaret. And now you're part of that legacy too.
They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the fire and feeling the baby move. Outside, the wind picked up, but inside the house was warm and safe. November arrived with clear skies and biting cold. On the 15th, Ella's labor began just after dawn. Ben sent Thomas riding for the midwife while Sarah stayed with her mother, holding her hand and telling her stories to distract her from the pain. The labor was long and difficult. By evening, Ben was pacing the porch, wild with worry. The midwife finally called him inside just as the sun set. The cry of a newborn filled the small house, strong and healthy. Ben rushed to Ella's side and found her exhausted, but smiling, holding a tiny bundled form.
It's a girl. Meet Margaret Sullivan.
Ben looked at his daughter, so small and perfect, and then at his wife, fierce and beautiful, even in exhaustion.
She's perfect. You're perfect.
We did it.
You did it. You're the strongest person I've ever known.
Sarah and Thomas crept in to meet their new sister, eyes wide with wonder. The baby opened her eyes, dark like her mother's, and looked around at her family. The midwife stayed the night to make sure both mother and baby were stable. By morning, Ella was sitting up and nursing, while Ben hovered nearby, unable to stop staring at his daughter. The ranch hands came by with shy congratulations and small gifts they had carved or saved. The days that followed were a blur of feeding and changing, and sleepless nights. But Ben and Ella worked as a team, just as they had faced every other challenge. Sarah helped with the cooking, Thomas kept the wood box filled, and the whole family rallied around the newest member. By December, a routine had emerged. Ella was healing well, and baby Margaret was thriving. The ranch was prepared for winter, the cattle were in good condition, and the family was healthy and happy. On Christmas Eve, snow fell softly outside while the family gathered by the fire. Sarah read the Christmas story from the family Bible, while Thomas held his baby sister carefully. Ben and Ella sat close together, his arm around her shoulders, watching their children with gratitude and love.
2 years ago, I was alone and running. Now look at us.
2 years ago, I was hunting a ghost. Now I'm home.
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 They exchanged a look that held everything they had been through together. The danger, the fear, the hard choices, and the ultimate victory of choosing love and building a life. Baby Margaret made a small sound, and Thomas rocked her gently. Sarah finished the story and closed the Bible. Outside, the snow continued to fall, blanketing the prairie in silence. Inside, the fire burned warm and bright, and a family forged from loss and courage and love celebrated their first Christmas together, complete and whole and happy. Spring came early that year, melting the snow and revealing new grass underneath. Ben and Ella worked side by side, repairing fences and preparing for calving season. Baby Margaret rode in a sling on Ella's back, content to watch the world from her safe perch. Sarah had grown tall and confident, helping with the younger children and taking on more responsibility around the ranch. Thomas was becoming an excellent rider, already helping move cattle with the hired hands. One afternoon in March, a rider approached from town carrying mail. Ben recognized the federal marshal's seal on one of the letters and felt a cold knot form in his stomach. Ella saw his expression and took the baby from him.
What is it?
Letter from the marshal's office.
He opened it with steady hands, read it twice, then handed it to Ella. The letter confirmed that all charges related to the wanted poster had been permanently dismissed. The case was officially closed. Ben's name was cleared in all territories, and there would be no further investigation. A second letter contained a bank draft for the full reward money, with interest.
It's really over.
It's really over.
They stood together in the yard, holding their daughter between them, and felt the last shadow of the past lift away. That evening, they sat the older children down and explained everything. Sarah and Thomas listened quietly as their parents told them about the wanted poster, about Caldwell and the bridge, about the night at the dance hall when everything changed.
We wanted you to hear it from us, the truth of how your father and I came together. It wasn't simple or easy, but it was real.
And we want you to know that no matter what comes, we face it together, as a family.
Sarah reached out and took her father's hand. Thomas nodded seriously, understanding more than his young years should allow. Baby Margaret slept peacefully through it all, safe in her mother's arms. The next day, Ben and Ella rode out to the place where they had first tracked Caldwell together. The land looked different in spring, green and alive, with wildflowers beginning to bloom.
I keep thinking about that night, how close we came to losing everything.
But we didn't lose. We won.
Because of you. Because you stayed.
Because we both chose to stay.
They dismounted and walked through the tall grass, remembering and releasing. The past was behind them now, truly and completely. Only the future remained, bright and open, and theirs to shape.
What do you want, Ella? For our life? For the ranch? For us?
I want to grow old with you. I want to raise our children and build this place into something that lasts. I want to wake up every morning knowing I'm exactly where I belong.
That's what I want too.
He pulled her close and kissed her, long and deep, while the prairie wind sang around them and the spring sun warmed their faces. When they returned to the ranch, the children ran out to meet them, and they all went inside together for supper. The table was crowded and noisy, full of laughter and stories and the comfortable chaos of family life. After the children were in bed, Ben and Ella sat on the porch in their usual spot, watching the stars come out one by one.
Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't tracked you down that day?
Every day. And every day I thank God you did.
I almost didn't. I almost gave up and went back to Oklahoma.
What stopped you?
I saw your children playing in the yard. I saw the way you looked at them, the way you protected them. I knew then that you were worth fighting for.
I didn't think I was worth anything. I was just trying to survive.
You were surviving with honor. That's what made the difference.
He turned to her, his eyes reflecting the starlight.
I want you to know something. Every choice I've made since the day you walked into my life has been better, because you were part of it. Every hard moment was bearable, because you stood beside me. Every good moment was brighter because I could share it with you.
Ben Sullivan, are you getting sentimental on me?
Maybe I am. Is that allowed?
It's allowed. It's encouraged, actually.
She leaned her head on his shoulder, feeling the steady rhythm of his breathing, the warmth of his body beside hers.
I used to think love was something that happened in stories, something other people got, but not me. I was too independent, too stubborn, too focused on the hunt.
And now?
Now I know love is what happens when two stubborn people decide to stop running and start building. It's work and choice, and showing up every single day.
Sounds about right.
They sat in comfortable silence, watching the night deepen. Inside, the house was quiet except for the occasional creak of settling wood and the soft breathing of sleeping children. The ranch stretched around them, 40 acres of hard-won land that they had defended and improved and made into something lasting.
Next month, I want to expand the barn. We'll need more space when we increase the herd.
And I want to fence the north pasture properly. It'll help with rotation.
Sarah wants to learn to read maps. She's been asking about your trading routes.
I'll teach her. Thomas wants to learn tracking. I'll teach him too.
They're lucky to have you.
They're lucky to have both of us.
A coyote called in the distance, its voice lonely and wild. Ella listened for a moment, then smiled.
I used to hear that sound and feel like I was the only person in the world. Now, I hear it, and I'm glad I'm not alone anymore.
You'll never be alone again. I promise you that.
She lifted her face to kiss him, and he met her halfway, tender and sure. When they pulled apart, both were smiling in the darkness.
I love you, Ben Sullivan. Every single day, I love you more.
I love you, Ella Sullivan. You saved my life in every way a person can be saved.
They stood and walked to the edge of the porch, looking out over the land that had brought them together and tested them and ultimately given them everything. The stars wheeled overhead, brilliant and eternal. The prairie wind carried the scent of spring grass and distant rain. Behind them, the house held their sleeping children, safe and warm and loved. This was the life they had fought for. This was the happiness they had earned. Two people who had been running from their pasts had found each other in the middle of nowhere and built something real and lasting. The wanted poster was gone. The threats were over. The past was buried. And the future stretched out before them, bright with promise and possibility.
Ready to go inside?
Ready.
They walked into the house together, hand in hand, closing the doors softly behind them. The lamplight glowed warm in the windows. The fire burned low in the hearth. And in the small ranch house on the Nebraska prairie, two people who had found each other against all odds settled in for the night, wrapped in love and peace, and the absolute certainty that they were exactly where they belonged, together.